me and my Barbs and Bozos, it's Wednesday, February 9th, and we're going to get some cloud in here. Things that I put up with. Oh my good God. If you watch closely on the screen, you're going to watch my dignity just disappear and fade away up into the sky.
It should.
Because apparently it is just gone. Anyway, we get back to secret word speeches on Friday. Tomorrow we do more grammar game showy things and honor society applications we've taken care of. 3 kids have turned it in, go them, and apparently in here we're really excited for Monday.
No.
Which will be Monday. Oh, I don't know. All right. Handouty thing. So you will need handouty thing as we get back into it here in a moment because we're going to continue. We should have. Need this. Need this. We started this with you guys. Got through the first one?
Yes.
Did we get to the second one?
No.
Okay.
Yes. No.
No, we didn't.
Those are the 2 options. Now we just have to narrow it down.
No, I finished
Alright.
a brain.
And so we finished all of this. I'm just putting up. Alright, so we're good to go there. You guys there? I'm assuming no questions because
No.
Did you have any questions about me taking a kid's iPad who's still trying to work on a thing during class, or is that a thing we're going to get to? What? I wasn't yelling at you. Sometimes I get to yell.
I have a second.
You said 1 second. Oh my gosh.
You said if anyone had a question about it.
Yeah, what's your question, Omar?
Can we work on it?
There we go.
Yeah, you can work on this all you want.
Okay.
This is what we had the question about.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're going to work on this? Okay.
Wait, on that?
Yeah, that kid's not going to get any clout.
I didn't like that.
I didn't either, and I'm the one that had to do it.
No, but you want you to say it like
That
that.
Fortnite.
You're supposed to go like loud.
Stop
Cloud.
trying to get into another weird thing. Don't do a thing.
Loud. I don't know why you said
Someday I will be dead, and these videos will live on forever, and it's going to be embarrassing.
Don't play at your funeral. I won't be here right than just leave time after the school year.
Back to here.
Do you ever stop talking?
So,
You're never gonna get any.
got through jovial. What Roman god did Roman god did jovial connect to? Kid who just liked to yell at me. You can't just repeat the word either. Well, that's strike 2.
Wait a minute. Joe.
Nicely done.
Joe/Jupiter.
Jove/Jupiter. And what is Jove/Jupiter's Greek name? There you go. So that's where Zeus comes in. And again, he is the flying air mermaid one there. He's one of the things there. Those of you who are watching from home, you can't see the little pictures. You'll just have to use your imagination. And then same thing, Zeusy person over there. Same thing. I remember right on that first screen it said something about making good choices during tiny time. Anyway, and then what does jovial mean?
Happy over the world.
A thing that apparently you're not going to see me being here in a moment.
Okay.
Why are you looking at me? Wait. Oh my god. Wait.
God's up, plural, there's a lot of them. So from, yes, God's up. Good job, you hit it. So from there we got into cereal. Did we get to, we didn't,
No. But I think I know.
we will see if we get it together. What Roman god do we get cereal from? See, that time it wasn't you yelling out the wrong thing and losing points, wondering if it's going to impact their honor society application. Oh, you did make me jovial. Nicely done. And what is Ceres' Greek name?
Demeter.
Nicely done. Nailed it. Or, as Demeter is known in Ireland, Lucky Charms. And
What?
oh, this is me making fun of the kid who lost points. Because I was trying to be jovial, because making fun of kids brings me jovial. So Demeter is the one that's up here who's, I don't know why she's throwing a gang sign, but apparently she's throwing a gang sign. It's like that's like throwing a West Side on there. She's the one that's over here who is throwing a finger into Hades' face because of one of the stories we'll get into. And then over here behind Luke, she is the one that's sitting on a throne of wheat, which sounds really uncomfortable. What is she the god of?
And like
Agriculture.
By the way, Good job not yelling architecture, as I had happen earlier today. The god of wheat and architecture. And I'm like, are you building things out of wheat? And they were really confused. So with that one, she is the god of growing. She was basically their version of Mother Nature. The god of growing things and eating and stuff like that. Was prayed to a lot, and rumor is she was amazing. The definition of cereal?
Food.
You're on the right track. Because like a steak is food, but a steak is not cereal. There you go. So food that comes from grain in some way. Here's our problem with food that comes from grain. The cereal that most of you have today is not made from grain. Most of what you guys have today is made from sugar. Although sometimes you guys have sugar-covered sugar, and those of you who like to really commit have chocolate-covered sugar, and then others of you just like to yell Lucky Charms because you've had so much sugar into your system throughout the day. At one time, like during your probably great-grandparents, because it was during my grandparents' time, do you guys know what frosted mini wheats are?
Yeah.
So frosted mini wheats are the things they have now. When my grandparents were growing up, their big thing was they had these things just called shredded wheat. And shredded wheat is like frosted mini wheats, but the size of your hand. Literally, it was a chunk this big, but then no sugar. It was just the wheat in a giant biscuit the size of your hand.
That's big.
And if you can imagine taking off all the sugar from that and then biting into it with that, and then you just had to sit there and chew it and you felt like a horse, it was awful. My grandma tried to feed me one as a child, and I was like, what is this? No. And so she's like, no, this is what I had as a kid. And you would take sugar, and she took a big scoop full of sugar and went flap, and you throw it on top of it, and then you pour milk on it, and then you had to sit there and take your spoon. Milk. Milk?
Milk.
Once you poured your milk on it, you had to sit there and stab it in the little tiny mush, and then you ate this mush of wheat and milk and sugar that was all together. Over time, companies...
You just melt.
Y'all get caught up on the weirdest things sometimes.
She said milk.
You get caught up on the weirdest things. I don't either. Anyway, moving on. Milk. Is that just the word that throws you guys off also?
Maybe.
No.
Instant eat.
You say Canadian.
I'm Canadian.
What? What?
And when I say the word milk. Eric Clay, before I continue cereal, because you really seem to have something.
That eats grain cereal. Or it's like made out of the granola bars.
That's why you were holding your hand up the whole time. Solid bonding, Eric Clay. Go, your father. Joey?
I think back then they took whole grain to a new level.
Yeah. Anyway, cereal today is covered in sugar. We're just going to move on from there and go to our next one, because we're going to get to killing one of you here in a moment. So, trust me, we don't have to wish. It's going to come true. Volcano! We'll get to our next one from there. Who is the Roman god? Vulcan. And the Greek god?
Hepatitis. Wait, hepatitis.
So, his name again, the PH makes the F sound, like in phone, the thing that you have to put on my desk. So it is that sick. I'm not yelling at you right now until you loudly yell hepatitis at me, which is a disease you get from going potty, not washing your hands, and then drinking milk. So in that case, it comes back to haunt you. So anyway, Hephaestus, dude that's over here, pronounced with a Hephaestus. This is him on this one. We're going to talk about this thing in his hand in just a moment. That thing that he... You guys know what this thing is right there?
It's the boat that travels across the... It's an anvil.
Like the Percy Jackson.
Oh, no.
No. I want to see Sophia jump on one of those and try to float across a river.
Like in Minecraft.
You put stuff on it because
So
then
it is interesting. Like my reference to this goes back to cartoons and trying to drop them on like Roadrunners. And apparently for you guys, the reference is Minecraft.
Yeah.
Because that's where most kids seem to know it from. So it's interesting. But yeah, same thing, anvil. He is also the one that's going to be the one sitting right here. That is another anvil sitting next to him. Or a boat used for crossing rivers.
I think it was 6.
The one over here, same thing. He has a same crutch in his arm. It's just that probably only Gray and Airclay can see it because it's really tiny right there in his little shoulder. But there's one that's there. Hephaestus is the only god in Greek mythology who is crippled. He is also the only god in Greek mythology who is ugly. He was lame. You are correct. Which we'll get to the story eventually. The short version of it is that when he was born, one version of it is that he was so ugly that his parents decided to throw him away. Because that's what you do. What do you mean, yeah? Like, this is the thing that...
That's the story that
I thought this was like, you were just like, that's what you do with ugly babies.
No, I
She just got excited.
that I heard. This is basically
Yes.
the plot of the Hunchback of whatever.
So yes, mom or dad, depending on the story, threw him away. There's another story that we'll get into that did not involve him being ugly, but involved a different issue. But that's what led to him being crippled. So that's why he has either sitting down or has a crutch in his hand or something along those lines. So that is Hephaestus.
Open your eyes, Omar.
So in a moment, when we have to stop recording and realize this was a failure, we'll have to chalk it up to Gray. What's up?
Hi, basic. So, like, if he was ugly, were his parents also ugly, or were they?
No, they were attracted. That's why, just like Ruby's family, that's why you throw away the ugly babies.
So, but like, why would they do that? Because that's not very nice.
No, but you should probably yell at the Collins family
I
later.
should.
It's okay. But that's all.
Oh wait, no! I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that.
I'm just kidding. I don't know where you live.
Hi, what's up?
So, like, did his mom or something?
Oh wait, let's answer this with.
We'll get to it.
So back to Hephaestus. No, we'll get to that. Hephaestus and kids yelling at me who seem really excited today. So he was the armor smith. He made the weapons for the gods. He was the god of fire. He did not have the ability to shoot fire. That'd be cool. That'd be a superpower. He just had the ability to work with fire. But because he was ugly, the other gods would not hang out with him because apparently they don't hang out with uggos. So he did not get to live on Mount Olympus, and they forced him to go off on his own. And oftentimes he would create his workspace inside of a mountain. And he would find big hollow mountains and work inside of there. As he worked, it would build up heat until eventually the top of the mountain blew off the top of it. So anytime you saw a mountain and the top would explode, you knew that's where Hephaestus was sitting and working. So they started calling these mountains with the tops exploding the home of Vulcan. And eventually it went from the home of Vulcan to
Volcano.
So a volcano is just a mountain of fire. Anytime you see, so now, anytime on the news you see a volcano, you can look at your parents and go, an ugly man lives there. And it's not completely wrong, because I'm sure there's an ugly man somewhere there.
That's rude.
He's also crippled, if that makes it better.
Well, my stepdad's
A lame, ugly man lives there.
You guys are picking all kinds of fights with people. Are we ready for Mercurial now?
Yes.
What Roman god does it come from?
Mercury.
Greek god?
Mercury.
So this is Mercurial, which is also going to connect to Hermes. This dude right here, who is striking the...
He was the delivery man.
He was the delivery man.
He was.
For those of you who follow college football, it looks like he's doing the Heisman Trophy pose.
I don't know what that is.
Yes, don't worry about it then. He's also the one that's over here who's running through the air with his delivery thing. He's the one that's over here behind where Luke is, where apparently he ran so fast his shirt fell off, which is something that happens to Greeks sometimes. And so he, on your sheet, what does it say he was the god of?
Mercury.
Delivery. Merchants, messengers.
He was
the
You can't just name different delivery services.
But
yes, messengers, and then also...
It's also partially the god of the sun.
Amazon
Right?
delivery. Was he
Or is that Thomas?
Just like
spreading
spreading
rumors about everybody. I
Okay.
feel like
Yeah, Lane's up.
So Hermes, because he was also the god of ADHD, because he could not sit still very well, and that was why they originally gave him the job of messengers, because he was so fast and never sitting still. To help him burn off energy, Zeus just was like, hey, deliver this to someone. It would make him take off running, he'd come running back. So that became his job. Another one of his jobs was taking souls to the underworld. because when you died, they believed that your soul, like a little ghost, would pop above your body. Hermes' job was to run around and collect all of these souls. And you would sort of flap behind him like a bunch of strings. And then once he had enough collected, he would take all the souls to the underworld and then whew, just throw them, go back up and collect more as he ran around. Him being the god of merchants, you guys know what a merchant is?
Yeah.
So they didn't have stores back then. You had to go to like the open air bazaar where they would yell at you. Have you ever been to like a carnival where they tried to get you to come play the games and they yell at you to come over like throw the ball? That's how all the stores were back then. And so because of that, the faster you could talk, the more money you would make. They would pray to Hermes. Travelers prayed to Hermes because you don't want to be on the road because people would attack you. Thieves would also pray to Hermes because the idea is if you're a thief, then the whole goal was to be really fast, because if you could grab a thing and then disappear before they even noticed it, then that's why you would end up praying to Hermes, and you'd be able to get away with it without the person even noticing their phone was gone, which became a part of it, and then you could hold up your treasure and be like, look how fast I was, I stole this. It could be anyone's phone, who knows? The other reason why thieves would pray to Hermes is if you were not good at stealing things and you tried to grab a thing and you got caught in the middle. Worst catcher ever. By the way, if you ever want to steal from Owen, you can just stare him right in the eyes while you grab whatever you want and walk away, because he is apparently not going to. If you try to steal something and get, there you go, way to defend yourself. Then if you get caught, you can then run really fast as you take off. Or if you steal from Owen, just lay down in front of him and take a nap while cuddling it and give staring him in the eyes, because apparently you're going to get away with it scot-free. If you look in his hands, is that the next thing I have up there? No. I'll give you the definition. It just means able to change quickly. Mercurial, it can refer to science things. If you ever dropped Mentos into Diet Coke and it goes kasploopy, that's a mercurial change. Kasploopy is a scientific word, where it goes from not kasploopy to big kasploopy. Mercurial can also be used for like mood changes. I found one when I was reading an article where it was talking about IU basketball and the fact that they had a guy who could shoot really well and then went really horrible and then shot really well. That was mercurial, because it would change back and forth. You could also have a person's personality be mercurial, where if you have a teacher who seems like really happy and then you make a bunch of poor choices and they have to yell at you, thank you, then that would also be mercurial in a way from there too. This thing, if you look at his picture, you'll see he has a stick in his hand, which is a stick with 2 wings and snakes on it. He has the same thing right there, stick, 2 wings and snakes. Same thing over here, stick, 2 wings and snakes. It is called a Caduceus Staff. It's sometimes seen as just a single stick with a snake wrapped around it. You should recognize these, because we still use them today. Where would you recognize it?
First aid kit.
Nicely done. First aid kits in hospitals. On the back of ambulances, they have this one, which is a slightly different one. This one is not the Caduceus Staff. It is actually the staff of Asclepius, which is a completely different thing. But apparently humans were like, stick, snakes, all the same thing.
Wait, why?
He used it to heal people. He stole it, but allowed him to, one touch of this staff would bring people back to life. So if he was going around and collecting dead souls and it wasn't your time to die, he would take the staff and bonk you on the head, bringing you back to life. The reason we use this today is back then people were illiterate. So if you were a doctor and you wanted people to know you were a doctor and you wrote the word doctor on your house, people couldn't read it. So you had to give people a symbol they would recognize. This was the symbol people recognized. So doctors started carving this into the side of their house, which has lasted all the way to today. Which is why now you see that one also is the same thing. It goes all the way back 3,000 years to Greek mythology with these stories about Hermes and stuff like that. Air Clay?
But you said that sign was different than this sign.
It is, but they mean it in the same way.
So it's a slightly different story that dealt with healing also, and it goes to this other guy called Asclepius. And so it's a similar thing, but you might not know. Humans sometimes are kind of dumb. And sometimes carving just the one stick with a snake was easier than the 2 sticks with the snake. So if you saw either one of them, you knew it dealt with healing in some way. So that's why you'll see both of them out there nowadays.
I was just confused because you said they were completely different.
As in, they're two different stories. The story of Caduceus and the story of Asclepius are like two different things. They both deal sticks, snakes, and healing. Before Christianity and the whole Garden of Eden thing, snakes weren't considered evil or bad. They were actually considered a good thing. They're usually a good omen of some kind. And then the Christians came along and they're like, bad snake. And then they made it into a horrible thing. One more? Oh, you ready for the next one? Fatal!
Mars.
Mars. Why Mars?
Because Mars is Aries, and Aries is the god of war, so fatal war.
You're on the right track. Actually, he pops up for a different word coming up.
Oh.
We're not there yet.
Fatality.
Kira,
Is it fates?
why the face?
Because fatal and fates, and the gods who supervise human destiny, and fatal death to fate.
You are correct. It does connect to the face. Also, good job not trying to pronounce it Greek, because I've had kids try to call them the fates. And I had one kid call them the fatties. And I was like, nope, no, don't try and fat shame them. It's okay. So yeah, it is just the face.
It just says fates, not the fates.
Correct. That would be true. So I'm sorry, fatties as opposed to the fatties. So correct. So the fates were Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. I think we talked about with you guys with Atropos, the three sisters. Yeah. So they were the three sisters who worked together to control how long humans lived. So this brings us to our story here in just a moment. Let's go with. So the way the three fates worked is that the idea was they did not kill people. They brought you to life. So the first sister's name was Clotho. And she had a giant ball of string that was thought to be the life of every living human and titan to ever exist. In two different versions I've seen of it. One said that if the string was ever used up, no one else could ever be born. And another story says that she could create new string. And so I've seen both versions of it. But she had a giant ball of string. And when a child is getting ready to be born, they start pulling off the string. The second girl, Lachesis, had a measuring stick. And along it would be things like minutes, days, weeks, months, years. And they would pull the string along there to see how long you were going to live. The third sister, Atropos, had a pair of magic scissors, the only thing that could cut the life string. And when you cut the string, that brought the person to life. So let's say baby Kirky is getting ready to be born. So with baby Kirky coming into the world, Mama Kirky's like, here comes the baby! And so then the three fates work together to see how long baby Kirky is going to be alive. And they can pull that string out to say like 70 years, 5 months, 3 days, slap it down. When they cut the string, it would disappear and fizzle away. That becomes Kirky's soul. So it goes, cut, fizzle, baby Kirky is now in the world, and her lifeline has already been decided. When she hits that 70-year mark, she dies. Now, the fates don't tell us how she dies, just that that is the moment she dies. It all depends on what she's doing. If she was out driving her car and she's like, I'm just driving, and then all of a sudden her string is up, she'll go, is that a semi? Ah! And it just comes by and hits her, no more Kirky. Or maybe she's flying in an airplane, and all of a sudden the airplane is like, ah! And it goes to, so whatever it is, that is the moment you are going to die. Now, with that one, they could also sometimes, when they pull it, it could snag. You go, snaggy, snaggy, and maybe it only goes out to 3 minutes. And then when you cut the string and it fizzles, baby Kirky's like, wah, wah, wah. And that was how they explained things like baby death is just the string was not long enough. Now, let's say we go to 13 years, 4 months, and 3 days, and we cut it. At that point, Kirky only lives to that limit. Let's say Kirky's nervous. And she's like, I think my string is only going to be 13 years and something. So Kirky decides that she's going to go into a giant padded room. And she's like, no semis are going to get me. And she's going to just sit in this giant padded room to protect herself. As soon as that string is up at the 13 years, 4 months, and Kirky goes, ha-ha, heart attack. And then down she goes. So no matter what, you are going to die whenever your string expires. Now, along those same lines, if you were to find out how long your string was, you were going to like go on some superhero mission and you track down the fates to find out that Kirky knows that she's going to live to 70 years old. And she's like, I'm only 13 right now. That gives me 50-some years of crime fighting. And Kirky decides to go out and fight crime, and she finds her first bad guy and goes, "You can shoot me all you want, I ain't gonna die." He goes, "Oh, okay." Bang! And shoots her. She goes, "Ha!" And falls down. She doesn't die, but she'll go into a coma. And she'll be in a coma for the next 50 years. Until eventually you get to that 70-year mark, and then she wakes up and goes, and then she dies. And so that was how the Greeks explained things like comas, was the fact that you got hurt, but your string wasn't up. The same idea as if she picked a fight with me, and all of a sudden I took my sword and just started stabbing her in class, but her string is not up because she still has 4 more months, then you would see in the news, Kirkendall gets into a fight with teacher, gets stabbed 7 times, doesn't die, defies miracles. And you're like, oh my God, that's how she lived, because her string was not up. Oh, and Titans also had strings. They just had really long strings. So when little baby Zeus was born, it was the same idea. It's just instead of going to there, it was you'd have like a giant pile of string, and then eventually you cut, it's like, and eventually it would disappear, and that's when the baby was going to be born. How could you possibly have issues? This completely makes sense. Eliana.
What if you died from like a disease?
Well, then your string was up.
Well, but how would that be explained?
Because that was, so if you die from a disease, then obviously, again, your string is up at 13 years or whatever it's going to be. They don't determine how you died, but apparently it was because of some people, like COVID, it was because some people make it through, others don't, depending on where their string was. So that's how some people can survive a plague and others couldn't, because if your string was up, the plague kills you. If your string isn't up, you manage to live through it. At least that's how they explained it. Great!
Okay, so basically, I'm kind of confused on this. So when, I don't know, when you're able to understand, so do they tell you, or do you just find out?
You find out when you die. That's how you know your string is up.
Okay, and then also, could it just be anything in that given moment that's just around you that can kill you? Or could you just
From your mom.
That's where it could be well, it depends on who your mom is. But it could be like a heart attack or anything. I mean, it just depends on what's going on, so, yeah. Jack?
So, you said something that kind of confuses me with, Hermes and how the stat that could bring people back to life, but since their time is not up. So, technically, people can die, but it's Hermes' job to make sure that they live till their string.
And the thing is, he doesn't know how long your string is either. It was just thought that the fates would know that it was not your time, and so when he would go by, it would be influencing him on which people were not supposed to die. So, again, you're trying to apply logic, and it's going to start hurting your head the more you try to apply logic to this. A lot of it's just not in your head.
I just thought it was a thing if the gods interfered, they could actually die.
If that makes you happy, yes. That sounds logical. Kira?
2 things. One, this might be future mythology, I might be thinking of something else. Isn't there someone who went against the string or death or something like that?
It's very vague, so sure.
And then number 2, since you said that if they're in a padded room they could have a heart attack or something, isn't that also combunctious thing where you randomly blow up or something?
Spontaneous combustion.
Yes.
And yes, that's a way of looking at it too.
Okay.
But spontaneous
Air Clay?
combustion is
What if